All right, guys, today we talked about solving multi-step percent proportion problems, but our emphasis was on tax and tip. So let's take a look. First off, what is tax? Percents are often used when we describe solving problems that involve in calculating sales tax. So like for the sales tax, it varies state to state. Like for example, Kentucky, the sales tax is 6%. So we take 6% of whatever we buy and that's added on as tax, okay? So it's a percent of the total cost of an items that are purchased. So let's look at an example real quick. It says Larry bought a video game console for $329 and the sales tax in the state is 6%. How much tax did Larry pay for the video game? So on this one, it's not asking for what was the total price he paid. This is just saying what was the tax on this gaming console. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a proportion, and it is a real world problem, so we're still going to use part over whole is equal to percent over 100. And remember that writing out your proportion where you're putting everything, that's part of your work, okay? All right, so then we got to figure out what we know from the problem. We know that he spent $329. That was the whole price of the gaming console. So where it's got whole here, we're going to put our $329. We know that this spot right here is always a 100 because percent's always out of 100. Now it says in his state, sales tax is 6%. So our 6 goes in the percent spot. And we're looking for what part of this would be considered the tax. So we put our question mark there. Okay, so now this is a proportion we know how to solve. We're just going to cross multiply 329 times 6 and then divide out the remaining 100. When we do that, we get $19.74. Again, when we're dealing with money, we're rounding to 2 decimal places, so be careful with your rounding. But this is saying that the tax that he would pay on this is $19.74. Okay? Let's look at another example. It says, Jesse is buying a surround sound system that cost $799. If the sales tax is 7%, how much tax will Jesse have to pay for the sound system? So again, we're going to set up our proportion. Okay, it's a real world problem, so we're going to use part over whole. It's equal to a percent over 100. Okay, let's figure out what we know from our problem. We know that it says the sound system cost $799. So $799 is our whole. Okay, the sales tax is 7%. We know that percent's always out of 100, so this spot's going to be 100, and 7 is going to be our percent. Okay, our question mark goes here because we're looking for what part would be considered the tax. And now we're just going to cross multiply and divide. We're going to cross multiply 799 times 7, and then we're going to divide out 100. When we do that, we get that the tax he would pay is $55.93. Okay, all right, so this one's going to look a little bit different. It says Lewis bought a laptop for $650 and a power adapter for $59. If the sales tax is 6%, what was the total that Lewis paid for both items? So first off, we have to figure out his total between the laptop and the power cord. Then we have to find the tax, and then to find the total that he paid, we're going to take the tax and we're going to add it to the price of his items. Okay, so first things first, we're going to set up our proportion, real world problem. So it's part over whole equals a percent over 100. Okay, so like I said, to find the whole, our first step is to add 650 plus $59, and we get that his bill is going to be $799. We know this spot is 100 because the percent is always out of 100, and our tax here is 6%, so we're putting our 6 in our percent spot. Now, we're looking for just what he paid in tax. So we're going to cross multiply 799 times 6, and then we're going to divide out the 100, okay? And we get that he paid $42.54 in tax. To get the total he paid, we're going to take his $799 bill plus $42.54, and we're going to add them together and get $751.54. Okay. All right, so be careful with that because sometimes people skip over this total piece and they get them wrong because they just tell me what the tax was and they don't add it back together and tell me what the total that they paid was. Okay. All right. So now we're going to focus on the tip part. It says a gratuity is a tip or a bonus that is given to services that have been provided. It is usually computed as a percent of a total that we do for a service. So like when you guys go out to a restaurant, your parents typically leave a tip, and it's customary to leave 15% or more. So whatever your bill is, you find that percentage and then you give it to your server as a tip. Okay. All right, so let's look at an example. It says Kyle's family went out to dinner and the bill for the meal was $45. Kyle's dad is going to leave a 15% tip. So what is the amount of the tip? So this one's just asking what would he be leaving as the tip. So we're still going to set up our proportion. Okay. It's a real world problem, so use your part over whole. And we know that the total for the bill was $45. So our whole is 45. Okay. This is always 100 because we're working with percentages and percentages are always out of 100. And then 15 is our percent because he wants to leave a 15% tip. Okay. Now this is our question mark because we're looking for what part of 45 we consider 15%, which would be the tip that we leave. So we're going to cross multiply 45 times 15. We're going to divide out our remaining 100 and we get that he's going to leave a $6.75 tip. Okay. Let's look at another example. It says Patricia took her family out to breakfast and the total cost of the food was $24. She left an 18% tip for the waiter. So how much did Patricia leave as a tip? Okay, so again, we're just looking for the tip. So we're still going to set up a proportion. Part over whole equals percent over 100. Okay, our whole in this case is her whole bill, which was $24. We know that this spot right here is always 100, and she's leaving an 18% tip, so we're going to put 18 in the percent spot. This is our question mark because we're trying to figure out how much she left for the server. So we're going to cross multiply 24 times 18. We're going to divide out our remaining 100, and we get that she left a $4.32 tip. Okay. All right, so this one's going to look a little bit different. It says, Logan and his father each have a sandwich and a drink for lunch. A sandwich costs $5.25 and a drink costs $1.75. So Logan's father wants to leave a 20% tip. So it says, what is the total cost of the meal, including the tip? So we're going to set up our proportion because we have to figure out what he's going to leave for his 20% tip. But before we can put our whole in, we have to add this up. Okay, so we have to say $5.25 plus $1.75 because they each got a drink and a sandwich, and that gives us $7. Now they each got it, so there's two of them, so our total is a $14 bill. Okay, now this spot's always 100, and he's leaving a 20% tip. We're looking for the part that would be the tip, so we're going to put that as our question mark. And then now we can cross multiply and divide. So we have 14 times 20 divided by 100, and that will give us the tip. Okay, so they're leaving $2.80 in a tip, but it's asking for the total. Okay, total tells us to add. So we're going to have to add in the tip plus the $14 that they spent on the bill. So 14 plus 280 gives us $16.80. So again, just be careful looking for that word total. If it says total, you have to go back and take your answer and then add it to however much money they spent.